And here we go. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Kim Havens, and I'm the event manager here at An Unlikely Story. I'm so completely delighted to be hosting this event this evening with Shannon and Dean Hale, LeUyen Pham, the entire Princess in Black creative team, which is pretty awesome. So before we start, I'd like to go over just a couple technical tips. If your picture is blurry, just click on the help button and you can choose compatibility mode. And if you lose the connection, like we did in the green room and had a complete panic attack, just exit out of your browser and click right back in and it should work. So Shannon and Dean Hale are the award-winning husband and wife team behind the Princess in Black series, illustrated by LeUyen Pham. Shannon Hale is also the author of the Newbery Honor book, Princess Academy, as well as the New York Times best-selling graphic novels, Real Friends and Best Friends, also illustrated by LeUyen, I'm sorry. Shannon Hale and Dean Hale live in Utah. LeUyen is the illustrator of over 50 children's books with titles including the best-selling Freckle-Faced Strawberry series with Julianne Moore, God's Dream by Archbishop Desmond Tutu, as well as her own self-authored Big Sister, Little Sister. According to her bio on her website, she's also gotten lost in Africa alone, seen the Pope in person 3 times, ridden an elephant, swam with dolphins, been given an Erdos number of 1.5. I don't know what that means. Created over 100 books for kids. Yes, that's right. Worked with a Nobel Peace Prize winner, an Academy Award winner, G.W. Peck, that girl, and a Beatle. We have been waiting to host this incredible team since our store opened, and we were delighted to welcome LeUyen in September 2018, where she drew each child in their book. It was the best event ever. I seem to remember it was very short notice, something to do with the Girl Scouts, and we had Candlebook knew that we are such huge Princess in Black fans that we would fill the house, and we absolutely did. Shannon and Dean were originally coming to Plainville in person, but now we're all together virtually, and someday they'll be here. So I have to share something super cool with you guys before turning the event over. Jeff had sent this photo to me after we opened, and I use it every time I pitch for an event with them. So let's see if this is going to work. Of course it is. Application window. Here we go. Check this out. Princess in Black loves An Unlikely Story. An Unlikely Story loves Princess in Black, and I am so delighted to welcome Shannon and Dean Hale, LeUyen Pham, and Jeff Kinney.
Yay! Hi, everybody!
Kim, very well done.
Yay!
Although I think in that intro, LeUyen went from illustrating 50 children's books to 100. So she increased her number by 50.
Yeah,
that's during the introduction. It's so great.
All right, well,
it's so great to see you all. Shannon, we first met, I believe it was the Tennessee Book Festival? Does that sound familiar?
You know, I was trying to remember because I think when did the first Wimpy Kid come out?
2007.
7. Okay. So I used to have a blog because that was a thing that people used to do.
Yeah.
And I read the first Wimpy Kid and I loved it. And I contacted you, and you weren't famous yet. So you replied. And I interviewed you for my blog. And that's when we first kind of met. And then we would chat sometimes on the phone. Like we were like industry questions for each other, you know. We were like industry pals. You know. So it's been a long time. And then maybe in person it was Tennessee. I don't remember.
And then you came to one of my events. That surprised the heck out of me in Utah. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I took a kid fan. That was awesome.
Yeah, and LeUyen, you came to our store. Thank you so much for that. You were.
It's such a gorgeous store.
Oh,
I did not expect such an amazing store. It's such a nice space. Anytime you want me to come back to
listen, anytime.
We were thinking about moving in, actually. We're a little tired of quarantining in our stuff, and I don't know. I think living in a bookstore would be. Is that cool? Is that cool with you?
Is there attic space?
And Dean, we haven't met, but I feel like I know you a little because Shannon does a great job of talking about what a great husband you are, and
of me.
You make the rest of us guys look bad. So thank you. Thank you for that. So we were planning on meeting in person here in Plainville, Massachusetts, and then this thing happened that has affected us all. And I'm really curious. I just wanted to start off by asking, as a writer, as writers and illustrators, when COVID hit and we realized, oh, we're going underground for a little while here, how did it affect your writing and your productivity? Like, how did you think it was going to go, and then how did it go? I'm curious, Shannon and Dean, I'll start with you.
Wow, it's been tough. I mean, I think the kids out there know that this is, and none of us have experienced, I'm 46 and we've never experienced anything like this. And this is happening in your lives when you're so young. It can be very confusing and strange. I have to say, it was a little disheartening, like on Twitter, to see other creatives saying like, wow, I'm getting so much work done. And the thing about the parent is we now had 4 children home with us.
Yeah.
And we work from home.
Yeah.
I thought when it happened, I was like, oh, we're going to handle this a little bit better. We work from home already.
We're already pretty reclusive.
It's going to be, we don't need to see other people, but it's just the emotional and psychological consequences just really take a toll.
It really does. I think it's hard for everybody in different ways. And homeschooling the 4 kids while trying to keep up with our work deadlines and then the uncertainty, the anxiety of all the uncertainty, it's tough. So I would say our output and our work has greatly diminished, but we're still working.
Yeah. And LeUyen, how's it been for you? Did you get more done or less done, or are you in a different kind of state?
When I get really stressed out, I actually need to work. I don't think it's the same thing as writing in the sense that I think your brain needs to be properly occupied when you're writing.
Yeah.
There's something, and Jeff, you're going to know this more than Shannon and Dean are going to understand this, but when you're drawing, I think it takes up that part of your brain that would otherwise be consumed with other things, and it's actually like the best drug. It distills you from having to expose yourself to the rest of the world. So in a way, whenever I'm drawing, anytime I need to get lost in something, work has always kind of been the savior for me.
Yeah.
And I would say that at the beginning of lockdown, Shannon and I were talking about, gosh, what are things that we can do to help out? And, we wanted to make all these little brochures and all these public service announcement sort of things. And I think my brain was focused on that for a while.
Yeah.
And then I think as close to depression as I'm ever going to get started to sink in probably by June or July. And that was when I discovered I really needed to rely on work to get me focused again, to get me back on the sense where I felt normal. But it's the same as Shannon and Dean. My kids are home. My husband is home. I had the greatest home setup ever, and he's in animation, and he had to sort of take over my drawing space. So I was reduced to like an iPad and a corner of the house. All my kids had on my devices, and that's sort of what I've been going through.
Yeah, and so as soon as quarantine hit, I would drive to the cemetery every day and sit there in my car with a blanket. I was like, I can't work at home. That's not happening. So
that's not a metaphor or anything.
Anyway, sit in the cemetery.
So I took us to a really dark place right out of the gate. But let's get to fun stuff now. So the first time I heard of The Princess in Black, I was like, yep, they nailed it. And I read an interview with. I saw an interview with the 3 of you actually, where Dean said the same thing when he got home from work, and Shannon said Princess in Black. He's like, yep. And I was just wondering, can you tell everybody a little bit about that, how it came to be, the concept?
Yeah. So we have a 13-year-old daughter named Magnolia. Does that sound familiar?
Can't see that.
And she was 4 at the time. And she was wearing this skirt with butterflies on it. And she was pointing to the different colors of her butterfly skirt. And she said, Mama, pink is a girl color, and purple's a girl color, and yellow's a girl color, but not black. And I first was like, what? How? Where did I just come from that the colors belong to boys or girls? It's so crazy. And I was like, I didn't even know where she got that idea. And I said, girls can wear black. I wear black. And she was like, because I'm a mama, I'm not a girl. And so I said, that girl wears black. And I thought that would be it, And she said, Mama, princesses don't wear black. And I thought it was one of those observations that like only little kids notice, because they're always putting things into categories. And I never thought of that before. And I couldn't think of any princess who'd ever worn black. And so I started thinking about it, the Princess in Black, and I couldn't. It's one of those ideas, I honestly, when maybe you're this way too, I know Dean is like, you get story ideas constantly. Every day there's ideas for stories, and whether you chase them down or not is a question. But that one I couldn't let go. It like took up all my brain space. I couldn't listen to a podcast when I was listening to this podcast. I couldn't concentrate on it. And when Dean got home, I said, The Princess in Black. And he immediately was like, yes. And we both could see it was going to be.
I had it in my head already. I was like, yeah.
A superhero story. And it was like we were ants. You know how they communicate pheromones? All I had to say was The Princess in Black. And suddenly between us, the story was created in the space between our heads. We could just see it there.
That's really awesome. And LeUyen, like I've heard that usually publishers connect authors and illustrators, that they don't find each other, that they're connected, the right match. How did you first start working with Shannon and Dean?
So I love telling the story. So Shannon and I have been friends actually for a really long time, since Max was born, like a year old. And she'd come to San Francisco and we'd become buddies.
Yeah.
We were sort of lamenting over the fact that I was a picture book illustrator and she wrote novels. We were probably never going to work together, and other than maybe an occasional cover here and there, which, by the way, Shannon, I never got a cover from you.
Never done that yet, I know.
So anyway, years later, I sort of had given up the idea that I'd ever get to work with Shannon. And I'm walking through New York City, having just visited all my editors, and I get a call from my agent. She's like, when I have a project, I know you're really busy, but I think you might be interested in this one. It's a book, and it's written by Shannon and Dean Hale. And before she could even finish their names, I said, yes, whatever it is, yes, I don't care what it is. And I didn't even give her a chance to describe it. I said, just whatever the project is, just put my name on it. I'm on it. And I want to say, like 15 minutes later, Shannon calls me.
I called her.
We're not supposed to, right?
Not allowed usually.
Like, we're not supposed to.
We like to keep illustrators and writers apart, and only communicate through the editor, But I knew when. So I called her. I was like, I hope this is okay. I'm just really excited. I heard you say yes. And she was like, yeah, what is it? And I was like, not only did she not read the script, she didn't even know the title. She didn't know what it was about.
Yeah.
She didn't know it was with us. Is that the sweetest vote of confidence ever?
That is cool.
It was a train wreck, What if it did, the title originally was Jeff Kinney in the Cemetery. And
people would have bought it.
If I'd heard the title, I would have said yes right away. The title, Come on.
One day I'll be in that cemetery. Now, what's funny is if you put images together, or graphics, and put novels together, you could almost imagine that the two of them combining could be something. Graphic novels. Now, I wanted to ask you. I would like to ask you. I should have started off with this. If you, you've been asked a lot of questions. You've done a lot of school visits. If you could put a question on your banned list, right? Never have to be asked a question again in the school visit. What would you go with?
Oh, gosh.
Good question.
I don't mind any questions that kids ask me.
Yeah.
Oh, Shannon, you're too nice about this.
I know.
I don't like.
Shannon.
I don't like it when they ask which is my favorite book. Which is the favorite book that I've ever done?
Well, it's a boring answer because it's always I can't choose.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Any favorites? Actually, those are always hard for me to answer.
How about this one that keeps coming up? Are graphic novels real literature?
Yeah, that's an adult question.
That's an adult question.
And I would like to ban a lot of adult questions. like how to write a mother, I would be done with that one. But yeah, the graphic novel thing, I get it though. So, you were early in this whole thing too, Jeff, but our first graphic novel came out in probably 2007.
Yeah.
And you find that you have to become an apologist for the form when you're working in it. So, I have this whole PowerPoint presentation I've been giving actually since I think 2005 or 2006 about graphic novels and comics and why they're real books and why they're not dangerous.
Yeah.
When I started out, the term graphic novel, people didn't know. Like when I first announced I was doing a graphic novel, I got emails from people saying, I used to be able to depend on you. I used to trust you. And now you're writing a graphic novel? And no, graphic as in with pictures. It's just not graphic violence or something.
And now you've worked together, of course, on Real Friends and Best Friends. And, graphic novels obviously have been growing in popularity. And I'm starting to wonder, have graphic novels, did they sneak up on us in a way that they've now become the dominant form of literature for kids? I know we've gotten past the tipping point of acceptance, but I was wondering if it actually got a little bit past that. And Dean, especially you, I'd like to know, you have maybe a little bit of a different perspective. What's your take on that? Have you seen a change in the last, say, 3 years?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think there are still, I think depending on the subculture you're talking to, people will say, yeah, it's definitely the dominant form, but there's still a lot of gatekeepers out there who are hesitant to, it's sort of an underground movement still in a lot of places, but I mean, still equally popular, but not embraced maybe culturally across borders. But I think a big part that I think they're making money now. And I think there's going to be a lot of top-down support from, places saying, no, this is real, this is a good thing, because the companies can make money.
Well, you look at Real Friends, when Real Friends came out, there was no place on the New York Times bestseller list for it. So it sold enough copies to have been a New York Times bestseller, but it wasn't, because it's a paperback original and there was no more comic or graphic novel list, and there's no place for kids' paperbacks. And so it really was, in that way, it really was a subgenre that was not widely accepted even 3 years ago. And they just reinstated, they have a monthly list now for comics and manga.
Yeah, I had to laugh when Guts came out, or Raina Telgemeier's book. It's part of a series of auto or semi-autobiographical works. But it was like your book had, you're right, your book had come out a few weeks before, right?
Yeah, no list for Best Friends either, yeah.
And I was like, that's not fair. She's like, it should be a #1 New York Times bestseller. And then Raina's book came out, and I think she reintroduced like 2 lists at the same time.
Yeah, paperback and comic graphic novel.
That was pretty funny.
With Guts.
So another question, sorry about it. LeUyen, I was just curious to know, do you think that there will be a time when people who do graphic novels won't have to have this conversation anymore? Do you think we're getting close to that?
What's funny is as far as all this is concerned about this resurgence of graphic novels, I've never felt like I've experienced that, because my husband is French to begin with, and in French culture, graphic novels are just novels. Everybody reads them. Adults read them, and they're real forms of literature. They're not perceived differently in any way.
Yeah.
So when I started dating him, he was giving me all manners of amazing graphic novels to read that I wish would be translated here, that I wish adults would be able to pick up the book without that sense that they're reading something that's designed for kids, because it's such a great format for storytelling, and it's so rich in what you can communicate without words, just through faces. And it's not the same medium as movies. It's not the same medium. It's just a very, very unique way of telling stories. Yeah. So for me, I've never really felt that things were different. When I was in high school, I read all types of DC comics. I mean, comics have just always been around for me. And I didn't quite understand that they were a subculture. I didn't understand that people didn't know them. I just assumed that what I knew, everybody else knew. And that was it. And so now to hear that it's used as a tool in literature, it's sort of like, well, when was it not? How could it not have been? Like that just seems to me a natural progression from picture books to graphic novels. And for me, it's just fun to be able to be, as an illustrator, to be able to step into what I feel is an enhanced form of storytelling that I would have probably been very intimidated to do if it had just been in words. And I like sharing with Shannon and Dean when they come across an idea and they send me things, and and I like being in the room with them to be able to give a little bit of input sometimes and how it's going to unfold. So it's great. I don't know. I'm so happy that graphic novels are where they are, and and I think it's still funny that people call them graphic novels too. I think they're just novels to me.
Well, I don't like them so much because they're kicking my butt on the New York Times bestseller list. It's not fun for me with my black and white line drawings and text. let's talk about your book. We haven't talked nearly enough about The Princess in Black.
Yay.
We have about 51 people watching on Crowdcast and about 800 people watching on Facebook. So we have an audience, which is awesome. Okay, this is Princess in Black and the Giant Problem, which I love, but I figured to prepare, I'd better read books, you know, the first book and the last one, so I'd have my bases covered. And so I bought book number 1, and guess what? You guys fooled me with a number 7 that looked a lot like a number 1. And so I've now bought book 1, 2, 7, and 8, and I'm really glad I did, because these are really, really good books. She, you know, Magnolia, the Princess in Black, is a great character. She has a double identity, and I have to admit, in the first book, I was kind of confused by it, and I'm not sure I'm not sure I know the answer to this. I'd like to hear your take. Is that my feeling at first was that Magnolia felt like she had to be a princess. That's like that's her official role. But then she had the secret identity, the thing that she really wanted to be. And I got the impression after reading a number of books that she liked being both things. And I would just like to hear your take on it, your interpretation of your own work.
Yeah, that was definitely from the very beginning. We felt like, I mean, we have 4 kids, and we've seen in front of us what kids are like. And then the stories, what I saw a lot were a lot of princess stories where the girls had to reject being a princess and be like, ooh, that's stupid. That's girly stuff. Girly stuff is bad. This is what I want to do. And I don't appreciate that, because I think there's more than one way to be a girl, and one girl can be complex. And we always wanted her to like sides of herself. She likes being a princess. She likes having the tea parties and wearing the fluffy pink dresses.
But she also likes fighting monsters.
And she doesn't have to choose. I don't think kids have to choose. I don't think they have to say, I am fit into this little box and that's the only way I'm going to be. Like our girl, our little Magnolia, she would dress up as fairies and princesses and Wonder Woman and tigers and pirates, and she could do all kinds of things and play in all kinds of ways.
Yeah, and when I was watching an interview with you, I think it was at the National Book Festival, and you said that there was a moment in your life where you felt like you should be one thing, maybe a doctor, an engineer, and then you had this revelation where you said, I'm an artist. And I was wondering what that was like, or was that hard to make that admission, or did it feel liberating?
I think it's that moment. I was in college. I was at UCLA. And I come from an immigrant family, and so my parents had these immigrant roles for each of their children. You know, like the immigrant dream is that you never have to pay for professional services ever again. So you get a doctor, you get a lawyer, you get a dentist, you get et cetera, et cetera. And so each of my brothers and sisters were given sort of like a job they had to get, and mine was to be a lawyer, and I was going to UCLA, and I was taking all the classes, and I was sort of drawing on the side, and I ended up taking a drawing class for fun, and the teacher made some comment and referred me to the art department, and this guy at the art department would not let up. He just saw my drawings and asked me to drop off some more, and then the next week he called me and told me that he had compiled all of my drawings and submitted them to Art Center College in Pasadena. And they contacted me and offered me a spot in the fall, and it was amazing. It was like, and I can only describe it this way: when I started art school, it was like feeling my skin for the first time. You know, like feeling like myself for the first time. And there's no other way I can possibly describe that. And every time I say it, it doesn't sound real. It sounds like something fake that you hear. Yeah. But I'm telling you, it's exactly how I felt. And I feel like my whole life there's always like a compass that leads you in a certain direction. And when I found that compass, it just took me straight through, and it took me true. And that's amazing when you get that. And awesome. As the older I'm more, I'm realizing it doesn't happen to everyone. So I feel really lucky that that happened to me at a young enough age.
That's really cool. I went to the University of Maryland. Actually, I went to Villanova at first, and I was an Air Force ROTC guy. And I was headed into the Air Force, basically. And I was like, but man, I want to be a cartoonist. And then I had to make a big decision. I had to drop my full ride to go, to try to be a newspaper cartoonist. And that was, but I hedged my bets. I kept my day job all the way until last year in April. So I had a job ultimately as a computer programmer, a game maker. And only last year did I say, okay, this is.
And that's because now you're a bookstore owner, because as we know,
right.
bookstores are where the cash lies.
That's how we
Exactly.
Dean, I saw I saw a part of a clip with you where you said, you know, when you talked to Shannon about her book idea, Princess in Black, you said you were coming home from work. Do you still have a regular day job, or are you all in?
I do not.
Yeah.
I've been home now 5 years?
I
4?
think so. Probably 5.
Yeah.
I remember that he used to, I mean, when we had our last 2 are twins, and there were days where they never saw him, you know, because he'd have to leave while they were still asleep in the morning and be home after they were in bed. And so it's a different life now.
Yeah, it's way different.
It took about, it took
5 years.
No, it took over a decade of me writing before we could make a living on it.
Yeah.
So it took quite a while.
Yeah, I couldn't. My wife and I often. Yeah. My wife and I just celebrated our 20th anniversary, but oh, cool! It's a good marriage, but we often talk about how we could not work together. Like the worst thing for us would be to have a wallpaper hanging company. You know, like we'd be done in like a day and a half. When you look like you're about to say something, when I kind of carried on, did you have
Actually, no, it's good. I'm going to comment on that too. So my husband is Alex Pouvillain. He's the illustrator of the graphic novel Spill Zone, and he co-illustrated Templar together and Prince of Persia. You guys are staggering.
Yeah, you are too.
Anyway, he's but we've worked on a graphic novel together, and I was actually, every time we've worked on a graphic novel together, I was pregnant both times. And I remember thinking that working with someone that you're married to is the best way to test like having a kid with that person, because you have to make all these decisions jointly and you have to agree. It can't be necessarily a compromise. It's got to be something you both agree on doing.
Yeah.
And I remember at one point I was like 6 months pregnant, and I had drawn something, and I don't know why he'd gotten on this prima donna mode. He's like, I just would never do this. And I remember looking at him and looking down at my belly and saying, like, look at who you're yelling at, the mother of your children. Think about whether you want to say those nice words. And then, of course, he walked away and came back and was, completely much better. And that's how we ended up, having kids and not arguing or killing each other. It's because we first gave birth to a comic book, before we had kids.
That's a great line. That's awesome. Now, something that happens in the Princess in Black stories that I really like is that when a monster comes, the monster ring rings, and there's never a good time for a monster attack. It feels like a metaphor to me. When do you feel like your monster ring is ringing and you really can't deal with it?
Well, now it feels like it's ringing all the time.
Every time I hear the word "Mama."
That's really fun. I have to tell you that in the second book, and I don't want to give too much away to those who haven't read the book, but I'm gonna give it away because you should have read it already. But at a key moment in the book, I'm not gonna say when, a monster gives the Princess in Black, I think it's 12 little round stones, right? Yeah. And I was like, when I read that, I totally misread it. I was like, don't take them. They're monster eggs, right? And then the book just ends and it's a happy ending and she's got these monster eggs and I was like, what a cliffhanger. But boy, did I misread that one.
We could have gone that way.
I've never, no, that was, we had a long game in planned out,
Wouldn't that have been good though?
Those stones have come back.
Those things got to hatch, I just got to say. I really enjoyed the new book, which I have in hardcover, The Princess in Black. And there's a giant problem. Dean, can you tell us a little bit about the idea behind this book? You seem like a big guy. And, I mean, tall, right?
To tell you the truth, I mean, I feel like, and I don't know if Shannon will agree, I personally feel like the inspiration for all the monsters in the book, that in some way, either in attitude or actually physically, I am the monster. I'm speaking. Yeah, Wynn agrees. And so it's good that I help write it so that my people aren't misrepresented. But what we wanted to do with this book was we needed a reason. We all along we wanted the superheroes to come together. We wanted there to be more than just Magnolia, more than Princess in Black. But she's still competent. We need to have something, some sort of big problem that she needs help with. And so we just opted to go for big and something that actually is physically big. But, you know, something we always like to do is kind of flip the script. And so if you've seen the way that it turns out, the giant is not.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
So yeah, this book was. I was like, oh man, this is you've increased, or you what is it, expanded the Princess in Black verse. You know, there's all sorts of new characters and sidekicks, and that must have been really fun.
For men.
There are a total of 24 heroes in this book. No, 28, because there are 14 heroes and their pets, and everybody has their identity and their secret identity.
Yeah,
which was amazing, you know, especially because the secret identity is often very at odds with the regular identity.
And that's kind of fun because it's like they're letting out a side of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That
I still think, like, so I'm not sure how you can top this. Here's them charging the giant. Right?
Yes.
And I'm not sure how you can top it, but may I recommend that the monster eggs hatch.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
may I recommend a Princess and Black Wimpy Kid crossover?
Oh, right. Yeah.
I think that's been waiting to happen. I mean, you know, the 80s are back, and as we know, the biggest thing in the 80s was crossovers on different TV shows, making appearances. You know, A-Team and Simon and Simon got together. I think Wimpy Kid and Princess in Black.
I like that. I like that.
It happens. I think you do. We do a book. We do one book, and half of it is the crossover event that we write and is drawn by Wynn, and half of it is you written and drawn by you. So it's the two different styles. Okay, this has.
I like it. It's got legs.
This is the first I've heard of this. So you know,
it's so clear now to me that, you know, why hasn't this happened?
As long as those eggs can hatch, then we'll do it.
There aren't Marvel DC crossovers.
We just want to help your sales, Jeff.
I'm going to ask you a question, and I've taken too much of your time because we've got to get some audience questions too.
Yes.
So we have in this book the Cartwheel Queen and Miss Fix-It. And I was wondering, see, I'm about to go on tour. I realize that I'm going to have 34 meals with the people I'm traveling with. Yes. And I'm like, man, we got to have conversation captains, you know, like so I thought what we could do is we could mansplain and lady-splain things to each other. Like you would have your meal, your job is to teach everybody else a skill that they don't have.
I think that's such an awesome idea.
So my question is, if you could come to one of my meals,
are you invited? Thank you, Jeff.
What could you teach me? What's a skill that you have that might not be apparent to your fans that you could teach me or others?
Oh,
a teachable skill, not one that's genetically inherited.
Not like
so
tongue going a triple loop or something.
I don't know. So something I can do is I can finger spell in ASL DOG, dog with one hand, and cat with the other, and then I can do them at the same time.
Cat, dog, cat, dog, cat.
So you've taught me nothing because I knew that one. And it was short, so that's not even like the appetizer.
You know? Should say something in Spanish.
Right, we could teach Spanish or Guarani.
Say something.
We got to fill a meal with it.
So the way you say "I love you" in Guarani, which is the indigenous language of Paraguay, is
Oh, that's good. I like that. And how about you, LeUyen? You look like you're really thinking about this.
I have nothing. I have nothing. I have no talents that are really
It's all on the page. It's all on the page. All right.
nothing.
Here's what we're going to do. We are going to, I'm going to ask you a few more questions, but not yet. And let's have Kim. Kim, I see that some questions have been asked. So we always make a mistake, which is, Kim, what's the most popular question? Because then we ask the most popular one, and then it's all downhill from there. So
they're all zeros. So nobody has voted on them. So we're all equal.
Take your pick.
Okay, so this is from Perrin, who is 7 years old. And she says, which is your favorite princess? Which princess should I be for Halloween? And what will book 9 be about?
Wow.
They're all very good questions.
Very good question.
Yeah. Who's your-
It's hard. I can't pick favorites, but I'll tell you that I think the prince. We talked about this when we were making it. That we wanted the Princess in Black costume to be something that would be very easy for people to cosplay. So all you need is black clothing and a tiara and a mask, and it doesn't have to be exactly like the costume in the book. Although we've seen some amazing costumes people have made. Also, I think the Princess in Blankets, we wanted to be something that people could just, grab
my
something from their linen closet, blankets around them. All you need is a mask.
Yeah.
And book.
Sneezewort is my favorite princess for sure. She was she was the only one out of all the princesses that I modeled after me. The only one when I was a kid. And I used to dress up in blankets as well. So I kind of thought that I must have told Shannon and Dean the story a long time ago, and they just don't remember and worked it into the story. That's what happened, right? Pretty sure. Anyway, but she's
My family members always tell me, "Oh yeah, that thing you put in the book. I told you that, or that happened to me." Hi, Mom. I'm sure you're watching.
No, I was looking at the other princesses in there.
So one of our favorite new heroes in the book is the kicker and boat rack. See, all the animals have to dress up as something that's a different animal where they are, so they're disguised. We had 3 animals that had antlers, and by the third one, we're like, oh my gosh, how do we disguise another antlers? And Dean was like, let's hang a hat and coat on it.
That's awesome. I love it.
One of my other favorite princesses in this book is the one I really identify with personally.
Oh, I know which one this
is Sunblock. Because sunblock sounds like, it sounds so powerful. Sun and block, sunblock. But as a redhead who sunburns easily, this is me.
Living it right here.
Right.
And LeUyen, do you have any sneak peeks into the next book?
I don't know.
Okay, here's something funny, was that Shannon and Dean, I think this story was one that they sent a little bit late because everything has been kind of crazy lately.
Yeah.
And usually I get the story, in the summer, and then I've got some time to mull it over, and I send sketches in September. This time I didn't get the story until September, but I'm in the middle of working on book 3 of Real Friends, on the Real Friends series. Someone asked that question, is there going to be a 3rd one? Yes, there's going to be, but I can't say anything more than that. But I'm in the middle of working on the 3rd one. And so when I'm in the middle of something, I don't want to open up something from Shannon and Dean because I know it's going to distract me. So it sat on my desktop for, I want to say, a good 4 hours before I finally gave it. And
Did you see it? I didn't even hear. Did you see it?
Yes. And it's so cute. It's
Oh, good.
I can't say. Can we say a little bit what it's about or
No,
not?
it's a spoiler. I don't know. Do we say? Okay,
I
don't
think
tweet it. Just for you.
safe.
It's a safety bubble. Don't tweet it. Okay. You can tell.
You guys can hear it, but you can't say it, right? I
It's
don't know if I'm allowed to get permission on that.
Oh wait, should I not have said it? Did I say it? Did everybody
Nobody
hear
heard
We
it.
can hear you.
Yep,
I talked over you, so we're safe.
it? Okay.
Oh, we can tell. So it's
underwater.
well, just it happens underwater, and there may be a mermaid kingdom involved.
That sounds a lot of fun.
Cute. It's really
That
cute.
does sound fun.
All right, Kim, why don't you give us another one?
Okay, so this one is from Ella. She says, hi, my name is Ella and I am 6. I've been reading your book over the past year and I love the story and the pictures. My question is, how did you come up with the idea of Frimple Pants having the glitter stone horseshoe ringing. Thank you.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, the horseshoe. We just thought of a horse and like,
What could they wear?
like, would it be like a collar, and they wear horseshoes. So we thought that would be
But it
funny.
needs to be a little subtle.
Yeah. We thought that would be a funny thing. And Purple Pants, the name, that was just one of those magic things that I was just writing, and that was the first name that came out.
And
So
it stayed.
it's one of our favorite things is that name, Purple Pants.
Hey, goats feature very heavily in the series. Did you happen to see on Twitter and elsewhere the goat that walked through the village on its hind legs?
No, I need to.
You have to look at it. It's like this goat just walks through a village, like just totally upright, like Mr. Tumnus, and you just see the villagers like just looking.
Oh, I need to see that.
I need to see
Yeah,
that.
it's not right. Yeah. Kim, how about another question from the fans?
Okay, so here is a question from Callista. Are there any books that influenced you when you made the Princess in Black books? If there are, what are they?
For me personally, the biggest influence was the Mercy Watson series by Kate Yellow, and I'm blanking on the illustrator's name. Chris
Van Dusen.
Chris Van Dusen.
Oh yeah, yes. And because mostly I was influenced by that just because of the length of the books. There was no other books out there like this, and I had 4 kids, and I really knew that it was a big jump from early readers to chapter books like Magic Treehouse, and there was nothing in the middle. And I knew it needed to have enough substance, or like chapters where real stuff happened, to be interesting for older kids. But there needed to be full color illustration every page. Sorry, Wynn, that's so many paintings for you. And and we need not to be limited by the word choices. Like with early readers, you use these certain small words. We wanted to have a bigger vocabulary. We also didn't want to overwhelm it. It's a very specific style, and nobody did it except for Mercy Watson. So that was our influence.
Well, and of course, superheroes in general. That's been part of my life.
Yes, all superheroes also influenced us.
Go ahead.
I first pictured it as a comic book, actually, because when they sent it to me, it was it seemed like it could be a comic book. And then I remember doing a few panels as comics, and then those turned into the battle scenes anyway. So we still got to keep those comic sort of battle scenes, but then everything else turned into a chapter book sort of format. But yeah, I saw it as a comic book from the get-go.
Well, good thing.
That way. We thought about it, but those emerging readers, I really wanted books this way. And actually, a lot of publishers rejected the series because they didn't see this as a potential style for a book, and they think there was a market for it.
All right, I'm going to ask you one more question. We have gone over our time a little bit. So actually, no, we have 2 more minutes. Okay, Kim, we have one more audience question, and then I'll ask a question to.
Okay, so we have one that has, here's at the top. This is from Dave. Why is Purple Pants / Blackie in a disguise in his normal life, but the rest of the princesses and pets are in disguise when they're in battle?
Good question.
So I guess the question is he in disguise? Like, which is his true self? But the easy answer is it's harder to cover up a horn than to put one on.
Yeah.
That's deep.
That's right.
Somehow.
But you might want to explore his character, longer.
Oh, we could do a whole Purple Pants series.
So I'm going to give you a dealer's choice type question to round it out, and it's complex, okay, but it gives you some latitude. Is that I was talking to Tony DiTerlizzi just two days ago, and in his book, his character inherits a bookshop, like a really special bookshop. So my question is, you can either answer one of these 2. Either if you inherited something like a bookshop or a museum, something, what would you be most excited to inherit? Or tell me about something that you were afraid of as a kid, but that feels kind of foolish now. Shannon, let's start with you.
Oh, I was afraid of everything as a kid. I think I would want to inherit like an old castle with lots of like secret passages and rooms and mysteries that I'd have to go and spend time in and solve and figure out.
Great. Great answer. How about you, Dean?
I would, the first thing that I thought, I don't want to give it too much thought, but the first thing that came into my mind when I thought about wanting to inherit something, it was a spaceship.
A spaceship?
Yeah, I wanted sort of high...
Like a UFO or an historical...
No, like a UFO, like something like some high technology thing that I could get into and fly around in.
Oh, and I just thought of something else, a super suit.
Oh, well, yeah, that's,
And,
I guess
and,
it's, yeah.
and the name, like a superhero legacy,
Right,
you had to take over.
Right,
That'd be pretty good. And how about you?
You know what, my mother is adopted, and she is half French, and she never knew, and she's half Vietnamese, and she never knew her French father.
Yeah.
So I have a French grandfather out there. And when I was a kid, I used to comfort myself with the idea that he was, because no one else in the family drew except me, I used to comfort myself with the idea that he was an artist and that I would inherit his French atelier. Like some abode somewhere in Paris would be mine, and that he was just waiting for an offspring, for like a child to have been born that took up the arts, and that I would be able to get that. That's actually like a genuine thing I'm still kind of hoping exists. Like someday I'm going to find this guy and claim my rights to all of his paintings, because I'm positive that's where I got it from.
Oh man, those are great answers. In fact, I'm going to put that question into my rotation, because I really found your answers very revealing and fascinating. So we are at the end of our time here. I'm sorry to those that watched and didn't get their question answered because I talked too much, but I had so many things I wanted to know. LeUyen, thank you so much for dialing in. It was a special treat to have you here. Shannon and Dean, I'm so glad I've gotten to know you a little bit better. And thank you for all that you do, because you're all touring authors. You go around to independent bookstores like ours, and you make people happy when you see them in person. Thanks for doing this virtually, because I'm sure you've made a lot of people happy tonight. So thank you very much. And then Kim, you're going to tell us what
I want to say thank you.
Yeah.
So when they are signing book plates for us, and everything takes a little longer, but when you buy a Princess in Black book, you will also get a signed book plate from Shannon and Dean and Wynn. So the green button at the bottom. Thank you guys so much. This was so much fun.
Thank you. And I just want to say to the viewers real quick that there's a lot going on in the world. Obviously, it's really hard, but we can't lose our independent bookstores. We can't. We just, if you love books and stories and you like choices and freedom of speech, we need to keep independent bookstores. And the way we keep them is by spending money in them. And this holiday season, as you're thinking about what to buy for gifts, books are great for everybody. And if you can buy them from an independent bookstore rather than doing online shopping, it will mean so much to these communities that are supported by these bookstores.
Thank you.
And also, thank you so much to Abrams for agreeing to do a crossover Wimpy Kid Black book.
Yeah.
Set that up. I think you have an invitation for us to join you on your tour and have those dinners with you. That's really fun, and we're hungry, so we're delighted.
I'm excited to learn. All right. Thank you, everyone. This was great. Thanks to the hundreds of people that showed up online.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.